Okay, so welcome to today's Focus interview. I'm the host, Haoyang Yu. Today we have the honor to invite our guest, Haoyang Yu. Haoyang Yu. On the evening of December 26, 2022, Mr. Yu, as an Asian American, saved a 14-year-old child who fell into the river. We also invited Guoping Zhang, who witnessed the scene, and Mr. Nick, the father of the rescued child.
Well, I remember it was the day after Christmas, obviously 2 days ago. And as you may all remember, we had a pretty cold Christmas day this year, but that was the only cold day recently. And it was around 30 degrees the day after. I happened to be walking my friend's dog around the old reservoir in Lexington when a group of teenagers were playing pond hockey there.
Wow, 30 degrees is pretty warm for pond skating. I did some research and found that the ice needs to be 4 inches or thicker to be safe to stake on. So what size of the ice did you think was on that day?
Actually, before the accident happened, I had briefly checked on the ice just out of curiosity. I think it was about like 2 inches just by looking through it because I could see the water flowing underneath. And at the time, I thought it was marginally safe for the group to skate on it.
Yeah, right. I totally agree with you. It is really not a good timing to take a stake. So where were you when the boy fell through the cracked ice?
I was actually on the dam, which is about 100 meters away when the accident happened. Actually, Guoping and I were just approaching each other. We just saw each other and we were just about to start a conversation. I think Guoping and I saw and heard the same thing. So Guoping, do you want to quickly describe what happened from your perspective at the time?
Sure. Thanks. Thanks. Actually, yes, I remember that. We walked. We were approaching each other from two different directions.
Right.
We were about to say hi. And say. And then we heard some kind of splash and also some yelling, screaming. From there. And I turned my head and I saw kid, one boy was in the water already, and the other boy was trying to save him, and then because I think the ice was not thick enough, and the other ice and broken, and then the other boy also fell in the water. I couldn't tell if my son was one of the two boys or started yelling help, and also I tried to call 911, and we started to turn back, and then we ran off on the dam, and also walk off this kind of stone made kind of levee kind of protecting the dam, the surface, and then I was slowing that by the ground, Haoyang ran faster than me. Then I give up. He was on the ice already, and then I tried, and took out my phone and tried to then.
Really, thank you to try to call 911 timely. Otherwise, it's hard to imagine what happened.
I was really scared, Yes.
Yeah. So like, what happened to me was, I actually was looking down at the time, and all in a sudden I heard a big splash, followed by loud screaming and yelling. And like when I looked up, one boy was in the water, and the second boy jumped in right in front of my eyes, and he was trying to help his friend out, but he couldn't. And somehow the other friends dragged out the second boy, but they couldn't get the first boy out. And after the failed attempt, they were just too scared to do anything. Like a group of teenagers was just surrounding the city, but nobody was doing anything. And I knew the water was deep from my experience in the summer, especially where he fell through. It's in the middle of the reservoir. And in the ice cold water, I know that it only could take a few minutes to drown. So I sprinted to the side. That's why Guoping was saying I ran fast. I don't ever remember I run that fast in my life, actually, to be honest. And to be honest, I was really impressed by the braveness and the immediate action of the second boy. But unfortunately, he failed attempt. And then because of that, they were scared to do anything. And they were just kind of waiting for the professional help. I think they were expecting somebody would call 911. So they were just waiting. But when I was there, I saw that Vasily's head was barely above the water. So he's like doing this. His two elbows were holding on the thin ice, just like this. And from this point below, everything was soaked in the water. And I was like, if I don't do anything, who knows what would happen when the police arrive? And I know in this country, they always educate you to not do too extreme things, right? Rather, instead, you should wait for the police. Like they teach you while you are in elementary school, if there's a gun shooting, just don't try to grab the gun, just hide somewhere. But like my instinct told me that I needed to do something. So that's what I did next.
Okay, so based on what you said, I can sense that the situation at that time became more and more serious. That was really dangerous. Sounds like he could fall in at any time.
Right, that's how I felt. And you know what? Luckily, I happen to have this here today. I happen to have this in my hand. And I didn't realize it until I was close and I didn't know what to do. Then all of a sudden I realized I have this dog leash in my hand. And this is what I used to pull him out. And to be honest, we actually don't have a dog. So it's totally a miracle that why I have this in my hand. So for a couple of days, my friend was out of town. So I was watching his dog for him. And I supposed to leash the dog on the dam actually, but the dog was a puppy. He was just 2 years old. He dragged me too much. And I was kind of tired. I was like, I should just unleash him for a while just to take a break. And that's why I had this leash in my hand. Had I not had this leash in my hand, I wouldn't have thought of taking this off the dog and use it as my tool. But I happened just to have it. It's like all stars lined up for rescue. And the boy, I think, was really lucky.
Yeah, just like you said, if you did not have the leash in your hand at the moment, it would take you longer to have the plan, and the situation could be a lot more dangerous for both of you.
Right. Actually, even with the dog leash, my feet were completely soaked as I was kneeling on the ice to pull him out. Being covered by water, the ice was super slippery, and it felt like the thin ice underneath me could crack at any time. So I couldn't pull too hard.
When you arrived, your son was already safe, right? So what do you think when Mr. Yu, an Asian American from your community, saved your son from the lake?
I was, just not me, but my whole family was fortunate and elated that someone like him just came running to trouble. Like he said, that we're trained here in America to basically wait for the authorities, wait for people to come and who are quote unquote professionals. And what he did was that he acted as a father, he acted as a friend, and he acted as a concerned individual. And we forever will be grateful for him. And he's definitely a hero to us and a hero to my son, and we'll never forget it. That I'm so glad there's people like him in the world who ran to danger as opposed to just waiting.
Thank you, Nate. Actually, I think, thank you. Actually, I think our first responders also arrived in time to make sure the city was okay. Hats off to them too, I want to say. I also want to thank another community member because when we first initially dragged him out, he was completely soaked and shaking. And I knew he must took off his wet jacket and put on some dry clothes, right?
Correct.
So another gentleman gave up his own jacket to the city so he could keep up his body temperature.
Right.
Really
And
appreciate that.
That's what I told the local news, was that the community of Lexington really did come together and really help when you took him out. And basically you took him out, but then everybody else jumped into action. And what was amazing is when I got there, they all were waiting for me, and we went into the ambulance and they checked his vitals and to make sure that everything was okay. And they waited outside the ambulance to make sure he was okay. They were very concerned. But like we were discussing before, all the individuals there, even especially the children, anyone who was an adult, they all came up to me and they've never seen anything like that. And when I spoke to parents who their kids were there, but they weren't there. They all described when their kids came home how in shock they were, and basically how they were just scared of the whole situation. And hopefully they will take that into consideration of how scared they were the next time they consider going on the ice that's not safe.
Exactly. Yeah. Hopefully the weather will warm up and they wouldn't go.
No, I mean, that's why I was telling, we had a conversation yesterday. That's why I was so upset when we went back to get his hockey gear that there were still people skating on the ice. It's like they didn't. I don't know what do they have to see someone actually drown, a poor child pass away. I mean, I don't know. I really don't know. It was I was just very upset that the next day there were still people there, and it was even hotter. It was even warmer.
Unbelievable.
But I'm just very thankful.
Yeah, I totally I understand what you said. Just like Mr. Yu is so brave. So without Mr. Yu, your child, your 14 years old boy cannot have the help, cannot have the ambulance help. So I assume this is not something that Mr. Yu does every day. When you save,
professional.
So when you save the boy, the water was so freezing, and the situation was very serious. And you have a family, right? Did you for a second worry about your own safety?
Yeah, I do have a family. I have my wife and my 2 children. I have 2 young boys, actually. One of them is also 14 years old. And to be honest, when I saw the boy fell in, I felt like 14-year-old, that's my son's age. So I should do something. But like, that's what I think in retrospect. But at the time, I basically acted on instinct because I basically had no time to think about anything. So to be honest, I didn't think I think too much. I didn't think I even worried about. I didn't even have time to worry. Like
you just
instinct.
acted. You just
I just acted. But now, as I think in retrospect again, it's not just a coincidence because first of all, I grew up in the northern part of China. It's a part that's very close to Russia, and I live nearby a river. So every year I would heard accidents like people drowned in the early springtime when the ice was thin. I didn't witness anything. Like Nick said, this is not something you hear. That's not something happened to your son, not even in your community. It's like I heard it in the news, but it never happened in my own community. But the bottom line is I'm not a complete stranger to the situation. So I kind of, like my mind subconsciously, I know this situation. And beyond that, like I said, I have 2 boys, and I have been a town soccer coach and assistant lacrosse coach from 2014 to 2019. So I'm not a coach now, but by just pure incidents, I was wearing this sweatshirt that day, and look closely what says on the sweatshirt. So I was wearing this on Monday, and here it says Lexington Lacrosse. And I was wearing this underneath my winter jacket. So like subconsciously, I felt like I have the obligation to protect people, especially young people, young adults. So it's an instinct, but it's also kind of built in my past. And I'm a big fan of Steve Jobs, and I read his books. I remember in one of his speech, he said, I'm going to quote, he said, "The dots in your past will somehow connect in your future." And I think subconsciously, I was well prepared for that situation, even though I didn't realize it.
Thank you so much. So although you are familiar with this kind of situation from your life, what is more valuable is that you stood up at the critical moment. So using your own courage and skills to save this 14-year-old boy, that is really impressive. We often hear Asian hate crimes in the news these days. A heroic action like this, is certainly fresh air for the Asian American community and for the whole American community. We thank you for what you did.
Anybody with that experience in that same situation, I believe he would do the same thing, no doubt about it. But like Xiangling said, as an Asian American, I kind of feel obligated as well today to stress my Asian and Chinese identity. I have been a community volunteer for a long time, actually. So last year, I was at a vigil in Boston to honor the 8 Asian American victims of the Atlanta shooting, when then candidate Michelle Wu made a speech. And this past summer, I attended a memorial service at the Chinatown Gate to honor Vincent Chin, the Chinese American who was brutally murdered 40 years ago in a racially motivated assault by 2 white men. And just recently, I was in the Boston Veterans Day Parade to honor the 22,000 Chinese Americans who served in World War II for our country. And Martin Luther King Jr. said, hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that. I feel like the best way to drive out Asian hate is love. And I hope our love for the community will wake up the love from our community back to Asian Americans. That's kind of what's in my mind today, not on the day of the rescue, but today I feel like I'm obligated to speak up for Asian American. And I really appreciate, Nick, you coming here to support us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I always thought as a whole, Lexington is a great town. Our children are fortunate to have the experience of other races and at the same time other ethnic groups, so they can learn from each other. Because when they get to adults and get their first job or they start their life, they realize that the workplace is full of different people and people from different backgrounds. And I feel that if they get that exposure at a very young age, which Lexington provides, that as they get older and start their careers, it just helps them understand more about where certain groups, you know, as Asian Americans, Indian, Spanish, whatever group that is, that helps them understand where they're coming from.
Yeah. Just like Mr. You use Martin Luther King's word, hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do. But I would say that your actions and your movement really prove that this community not only belongs to the whole American community, but also belongs to the Asian American community. So thanks again for everyone coming to our focus interview. Finally, hope that the parents and everyone should be careful about outdoor activity in the winter, especially skating on the lake and others, to prevent this kind of similar incidents and events from happening again. So thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.